Sarah, how are you this afternoon?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm a little worn down from 5 days of Ilticon, but I'm here. I'm vertical, so all is well.
You're winning.
I'm winning. Well, you and I got connected through a one of your colleagues had reached out, and I took a look at some of the stuff that you like to write and talk about, and there was pretty good alignment with what we like to talk about on the podcast. Stuff like M365 and AI and data. And you've got a long history in legal tech.
I do. Yeah.
You've been 20 plus years. Why don't you tell everybody kind of who you are, what you do, and where you do it?
Sure. My name's Sarah Thompson. I'm the Chief Product Officer for Blue Star. We're a litigation support shop out of Chicago, but we, operate worldwide, but focus mainly in the United States. And, what I do is really, we find, build legal tech solutions to kind of help out, law firms and in-house counsel win their cases. I mean, that's the bottom line. And we do that both with, we have a investigations platform called Seamly, which kind of, it's pretty cool. It makes it so you don't have to collect data in Microsoft, or at least start, from a place of, of knowledge when you are doing collections, performing collections. And then we have, we build like custom AI solutions to help, that are kind of matter based. So we're doing a lot of really cool stuff. We've been doing it for, like you said, I've been in the industry 20 years. Blue Star's actually been a litigation support shop for 20 years. So we kind of, we've seen it all, done a lot. Don't know everything yet. Probably never will.
Yeah,
So
well,
that's basically it.
as soon as you learn everything, it changes. So I don't think it's possible.
I think if you learn, it would be pretty boring. What I love about my job is that every day, we're learning new stuff, especially with AI. It's like pretty mind blowing how the pace that we're moving and the things that we can do today that we couldn't do even 3 months ago or yesterday. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm an enthusiast. I don't like call myself an AI expert. I'm more of an enthusiast. I don't even know what an AI expert really means.
No,
Unless
I don't either.
if you're working in the labs and engineering, okay, yeah, but for the rest of us, I think just getting in and spending time with the tools and learning their capabilities and learning how to make them useful is
Well, yeah, we're
best.
actually doing both. We're into the code. We build agents, that kind of thing. That's the really cool stuff. We definitely, yeah, we're looking at the products and seeing, we know what they do, and it's really quite cool. But I think that the future we're going to see is going to be beyond that. I don't think it's going to be tool based. I think there's a very small window where people are going to be, buying these cool AI tools, and very shortly they're going to be building them.
We agree with you. So, we're gonna talk about that in just a minute.
Cool.
But we agree with you. I think it's in terms of differentiation and how firms are going to go about that process, it's going to require you're not going to be buying off the shelf tools to differentiate
Yeah.
yourself. If your competitor can buy them, it's not differentiating. So
Yeah.
you're going to need to use your data. So, well, let's talk a little bit about M365 because that's one
Sure.
area of overlap with
Mhm.
you guys and us. So, Infodash is an intranet extranet platform that's built on SharePoint Online, Azure, and Teams. And we've been doing SharePoint Legal probably longer than anyone out there. We started in '08, and we were a services company and built custom bespoke solutions, and then we productized. We started the process in 2018, and then Microsoft completely nuked their development model in SharePoint in 2019-ish, and released the SharePoint framework, and switched from Angular to React.js, and so we kind of went back to the drawing board.
Hmm. Okay.
But we finally got across the goal line and released in January of 2022, and
Mhm.
things have been going great ever since. But how did your alignment with M3, by you, I mean Blue Star, how did that alignment with M365? How did that happen?
Right. Gosh, around 2012, we started creating a platform called eCloud Collect. And this was like kind of a concept before its time, I want to say. It was like a cloud collection tool. So, it would collect, from Microsoft 365, Google, AWS, like for discovery purposes. But it would also do remote computer collections. And it was quite before its time, And we ended up selling this product over to a company called Zapproved, or some people call it Z-approved. It's Zapproved. It's actually now Xtero. And so they started like integrating our product into their, kind of collection tool, because they're building kind of an eDiscovery stack, right? So we were collecting from Microsoft already. And, we learned a lot there. We had to do OneDrive and SharePoint. Saw the challenges there. And then we started moving, as it so happened, the product manager that headed up Microsoft eDiscovery over at Microsoft was a friend of mine from in the industry. His name was Rocky Messing. And we were chatting one day and he says, it would be so great if you guys would build an integration with your legal hold tool into our Microsoft 365 eDiscovery preservation tool. And so that when people put a hold on in Legal Hold Pro, that they could, it would actually go on in Microsoft, and if they turned it off, it would turn it off. Anyways, the integration. So we did that, and so we were the first. We built the first tool that integrated with the Microsoft preservations, with one, in the legal tech space, and we learned a lot. It was not easy, as you you alluded to. There's a lot of like ins and outs. So we ended up having to use like some weird technology. We had to use some old stuff like integrated PowerShell throughout. And so big learning curve, And so after that acquisition was complete, about 3 years later, I had gone over to Zapproved to kind of for the acquisition. I came back and with Blue Star, and we went back to the drawing board, and we're kind of thinking about, what are we going to do next? And what I wanted to do was get, really in on actual Microsoft investigations, because, from a product perspective, you have like assumptions and, this is how it works, but there's nothing like actually doing it, like the user, living that user's experience. So my team, of course, we do like they do and have been doing for years, like forensic collections from Microsoft, all these employee investigations. So I got involved in these investigations, and what we kind of were thinking was, it's interesting, having come from the forensic collection space just a little bit earlier, we were getting in these cases, and they're all like, let's get all the email, and let's get all the SharePoint, and let's get all the OneDrive files for a relevant date range, which is a lot. And then let's get the computer as well. And then, you start thinking to yourself, well, what are they actually looking for? So that question wasn't being asked, right? And so when we look at a computer forensic investigation, what are they looking at? Like, what did the user do? What's the activity? Because generally these are like, they could be employee theft, IP litigation, that kind of thing. What happened, right? So we thought it was weird that nobody was looking at the activity in Microsoft, because that is readily available. You don't need to collect a computer for 20 grand or 10 grand or whatever it is. Yeah, all of it is there, and you can just have a look. So we started looking into the activity logs from an investigatory perspective, and it was just a goldmine. Who did what, when, who are they talking to, who did they email, what files did they download, like what were they looking at? And we found that, this sounds like crazy, but we found like we could solve cases, if the data was there, within like 24 to 48 hours without collection. So we could see exactly what the employee stole. We knew exactly the data collected in the email that showed the proof of that, what happened. And so we built a platform. That's the Seamly platform that I was talking about, that just takes the audit logs from Microsoft and kind of denoises it so that you can see what happened. And if you've ever looked at an audit log, it's really terrible, like to look at.
Verbose, yes.
It's verbose. There's a lot of noise, and we want to just see what happened. And we built it from the perspective of investigations, like legal investigations. And so that's my experience with Microsoft. And In doing that and building that platform, we again have a very deep understanding of the kind of landscape in Microsoft, because we had to delve into each source. Like if you want to, in the audit log, yeah, it says they looked at a document in SharePoint, but it won't tell you the name. So we take, the SharePoint ID, we dive into SharePoint, get the name of the file, all that stuff. So we got a really good understanding what's happening. And it is complex.
Yeah. Well,
It's not as easy as you'd think it would be, right?
yeah, I've had to rip apart. I used to be on the SQL team at Microsoft years ago,
Yeah.
26 years ago. It was crazy. But so I've ripped apart the SQL logs and IIS logs and Windows Server logs, and yeah, it is extremely painful.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about the concept of like modern attachments in Microsoft 365. So, for the listeners out there who have been super annoyed that when you try to attach a file to an email in Outlook, by default, it wants it to be a modern attachment. It wants to
Mhm.
basically host it in OneDrive and
Mhm.
provide a link. And sometimes that works, but a lot of times it creates friction. I've had that where I'm trying to share with external parties, and
Yeah.
they don't have edit access, or I lose track of where the file actually is. So
Mm.
sometimes and for me, more often than not, I revert back to a traditional attachment,
Yeah.
just because I've had friction on, and it's like I don't have time to really like understand it. And I think a lot of people fall into that camp. So, like, what are modern attachments, and how do they differ from traditional attachments?
So modern attachments are just links. They are those links, the OneDrive links. They're links to files. Generally refer to files that are hosted in the productivity tool that you're using. So whether it's Microsoft 365 or Google Workspaces, they're basically shared links to files. And so they help with collaboration. I think in this day and age, much more prevalent than ever before after 2020, especially with the remote workers. So the problem, they've been around forever though, right? And the problem with like traditional eDiscovery, how it's been is that you collect this email and there's a link there, but where's that file? So like if you had an attachment, that attachment would be collected with the parent email and would be considered, relevant to that email, and that would be part of the discovery. Not with a modern attachment. And back in the day when we created eCloud Collect and we were collecting from Microsoft 365. That was, we would go to Microsoft and we're like, we need that link, we need that file, like we need that file that's linked here. Like, how do we get that? And it's like, oh, you can't get that, and this is like 13 years ago, granted, but it's been a problem for a while. And it's like, you have to say to yourself, man, if the attachment is relevant, why is this not relevant? Like, why aren't we trying to get that file? Right. So, you know, like a lot of things in legal, it's like, well, what are you going to do? You can't get it, And it's like, well, I think there's a better answer. So, um, we offer solutions where we can go and like kind of grab that file, because you can see that file, what that file is. Like if understand programmatically, what that link is, and you'll get the idea of the file, you could actually go get it. Now the problem is, what file do you get, right? So you have a file, like there's this like the term, like, are you going to get the contemporaneous copy or the live version? And so really what we're saying is, what is the relevant file? Because a file as an attachment has a static state. It is one thing. But a file as a modern attachment, it is it, on Monday it'll be this file, on Tuesday it'll be another file. People are modifying, editing it constantly. So what file are you getting? So for Microsoft came out with some features and they're like, okay, now you can get the file, but it was only the live version. Well, hey, guess what? Now you can get all the versions of the file. It's like, yeah, great. 5,000 versions of one file. I mean, there can be a ton of versions, right? So is that what you want? So what they've now come out with, and this is super new, this is like in preview currently in Microsoft, is they're now saying that you can get the contemporaneous version, and that, you know, if you turn on certain switches in Microsoft, which is like creating a retention a label that is for eDiscovery. So they're trying to solve this problem right now. Like we've been solving this problem for some time, but there's a few things that still exist. Okay, so Microsoft, of course, they have a discovery platform, right? Nobody uses it, but they, you know, I mean, no offense, Microsoft, but they don't, right? Like people use Relativity, they use Cisco, they use other things, they use Everlock. So if you get data from Microsoft, yeah, you can get the cloud attachments, but they're not automatically linked to the parent email. So there has to be this secondary process that occurs with your vendor. That's something that we do, where you have to kind of like marry the files with the parent attachments, and they make it very difficult on purpose. I mean, sure, because they want people to use their platform, which I totally understand. So that's a lot of challenges there. People can't ignore them.
Yeah, you know, I've heard some interesting perspectives on even the definition of what a file is
Yeah.
really it's not really a discrete object, binary
Hmm.
object like it used to be. It is
Right.
now a collaboration space,
Hmm.
right? And it has multiple versions.
Hmm.
It has conflict management as part of it, right? If I'm trying to edit the same piece of text that you're trying
Hmm.
to edit, that somehow
Yep.
has to be resolved. There are
Hmm.
permissions associated. It's almost like, you know, files have now become, and I'm going to use just Word docs because everybody knows what that is. It's almost like they're online wikis. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, rather than a traditional binary discrete document. So I would imagine that makes the whole e-discovery process much more challenging.
Yeah. I really want people to start, you know, attorneys and their lit support to start talking about what they're looking for, you know, so that, you know, while we try to have these conversations with our clients all the time, it's like, oh yeah, get me this, get me that, get me the other. And we could just say, do you want your cloud attachment? Sure. It's like, okay, you know, great. Now you're, instead of hosting 500 documents, you're hosting, you know, 17,000, you know, like that's awesome for us. We're charging you hosting, but is that really, you know, that kind of sucks. Right. So, we really, our conversations are now like, okay, exactly what are you looking for? You know, those files that you can identify as relevant. What is the date range? Are you looking for something that John did on a certain, like, what is the relevant date range that he did? Because you can say, well, instead of looking for all the files or all the emails, I want to know anything that John, you know, edited or modified or viewed during a certain period. Because just sending him the link doesn't mean he even opened it, right? So that's the level that we should be looking at it. Like, you know, if that email is relevant, then we need to go dive into that attachment. And I can think that could even be a secondary process, you know? So put everything on hold. Everything's preserved. It's there when you need it. Cool. Make sure of that you preserved it properly and there's retention labels and all this good stuff. And then identify the emails where these relevant links you think might be might make sense. Like you want to look at and decide what do I want to look at and when and why, you know, and get that. That'll really reduce your review, you know. Um,
Yeah, that makes sense. And,
mm,
you know, you and I talked a little bit about bringing your data to AI and bringing your AI to data. And,
yep.
you know, I think we're aligned in that as the future of law, you know, big law 2.0 kind of unfolds in front of us, that it's going to be difficult, as I mentioned kind of in the intro, for firms to differentiate themselves by buying Harvey or Legora or Paxton or these off the shelf tools. They're a good starting point. Those tools have value, but they're not differentiating.
Mhm.
It's the collective knowledge and wisdom and work product and that has led to successful outcomes for the firm's clients that is differentiating. So, like for us, for example, we're not really an AI company. We're intranet
Mhm.
extranet platform, but as part of our install process, we stand up an Azure, I'll call it a virtual appliance,
Mhm.
essentially, that taps into all the back office systems that a law firm uses and then presents a unified, security trimmed API that respects ethical wall boundaries. And like we did that. The reason that we built that is because our web parts need to surface information from iManage, from Elite, from Adorant, from Interaction, from Foundation, from all these different places. So it made our job easier. But then when AI hit the scene, and we this thing has existed for many years, but then when AI hit the scene and Azure released Azure OpenAI, Azure AI Search, formerly Azure Cognitive Search, it created, we now have a utility that enables the law firms to go, hey, you know what? I want to crawl and index this SQL repository or this file share and leverage Azure AI Search to crawl and index it. Then I want to use Azure OpenAI and run some AI operations on it. So it allows firms to bring AI to their data rather than, again, Harvey Lagora. Yeah, you can, in Harvey, you can go navigate your way to a Matter workspace in iManage and bring in a set of documents for RAG purposes and perform actions, but not what we're enabling is like wholesale AI operations. So you could take, you know, a SQL database full of regulatory updates for labor and employment and all your clients' employment agreements, employee handbooks, crawl and index it, Azure AI Search, and then use Azure AI and flag exceptions. Like doing those
Same
whole,
place.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know what is your perspective on bringing AI to the firm's data?
Oh, like firm meaning law
Law
firm, or are you
firm,
talking about corporation?
law firm.
Yeah. So law firms, it's interesting because, you know, a lot of these solutions that these new solutions like that are outside of kind of the traditional discovery workflow, they don't really work for law firms from a business perspective, right? Um, Less data review, less hours, less build, et cetera, and their whole business model is generally on hours. And I think that's going to have to change because, you know, corporations are going to become more and more agile and able to perform, like get a look into their data more quickly and easily. And so I think that, so right now I'm hearing a lot of outside counsel not really interested in that kind of like agents in place, but the corporations are super interested. They're like, I need to know what we have. I want to know. And you see all this stuff in the productivity tools. Like you see like communication compliance, like when things are like, so that you can be litigation ready. So, that's a little, you know, sexual harassment there. Flag me, let me know. Like HR is like getting alerted when people are behaving in a way that may be you know, cause future litigation. There's now you can actually perform investigations, and this is again a preview feature in Microsoft utilizing AI, so you could kind of search. And they're saying this is for you know, kind of a breach purposes, but you could see it. It's an investigation. So, I mean, you know, I haven't used it yet. I haven't really kind of dove in enough to give a good kind of, you know, perspective on how well it works. But I mean, really, you can see in the future that what you want to be doing in a corporation or even as a law firm is going into your clients and like querying the data that's there. Like, you know, what kind of data, what documents, where are the documents that discuss this? You know, is there anything in this SharePoint site that is relevant to XYZ? And that is 100% possible. I mean, like you said, you have the Azure OpenAI API that's completely available. You have Copilot. People are going to, you know, it's going to get better and better. So yeah, that's the future, is like people are just going to be like using whether it's an eDiscovery tool or just an agent, which saying like, hey, what's in here? And they're starting that now. Whether or not it's great, it's not that great. People are building tools to do that. Like, so we have some friends that are building in the industry. They're building some tools where it's like, hey, we're going to spin up, just like you're doing, you know, you're spinning up these virtual environments within a company's Azure environment. So that's the way to go, right? So you want privacy, you want protection of your data, then don't let it leave. Don't, like, that model is kind of outdated where you're uploading data into a relativity or into some other tool, you know, like an iManage to look at it. Why? You know, I don't see that model lasting for too much longer. It's expensive. It's risky. your data does not, the retention policies that apply to your data no longer apply. That data that resides wherever it is still subject to discovery. And so you don't want to, I think that that's where we're going to see it more and more. I'm just interested to understand how like these software companies plan on monetizing um, their applications with such powerful AI being able to kind of create these agents so easily
Yeah.
internally.
And agents and interoperability, that was a big theme at ILTACON this year. Like,
Okay.
so yeah, we heard, I believe it was iManage and their adoption of model context protocol, MCP, which
Mhm.
allow, agent to agent communication. I I'm very bullish on the future of agents, but I'm a little bit bearish on their ability to be deployed in any high risk scenario now. So for a customer service agent, no problem. A sales and marketing agent, no problem. An new matter intake agent, you're going to need a human in the loop on that.
You think so?
Yeah,
Why do you say that?
because right now LLMs are not deterministic. In other words, you can take the same prompt, run it, copy and paste it, run it again. You're going to get back different results, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they're not deterministic.
Mm-hmm.
There's still hallucinations. They've gotten better, but there still are hallucinations. They're not hallucination free. So anything of a high risk nature,
Mm-hmm.
I would bucket that in. That's a little bit further down the road. Let's check off the lower risk use cases first, where if something doesn't get classified properly, it has big dollar economic implications. I just don't, and everybody may have different tolerances on this, but given where and things are moving so quickly, like honestly, ChatGPT 5 I like less than I did prior, where I could pick my model and
You can again because
yeah,
they just heard that.
because they
They
backpedaled.
they reacted pretty quickly. But if you think about software, it's generally a SaaS solution, right? You don't have like 6 versions of Salesforce. You're using the current, right? But I mean, where people have relationships with these models, which is a little bit different. They'll probably, we're learning so much with like AI, so new that they're applying, traditional kind of software models and releases. And they may just they're gonna learn, they're gonna pivot, they're gonna do something, that makes a little bit more sense to its users. But to be honest, I don't like ChatGPT as much either. But you know, some people really do. They're like, oh, it's super fast. I find it very slow, quite frankly. But I kind of agree with you. Just to come back to your point about, you know, I just wanted to be devil's advocate as to why you think they're not ready, these agents, to kind of do the things that are
High risk.
high risk. You know, you have to kind of treat it like a junior associate. Like this stuff needs eyes on. And I think in most respects, like even if it's not high risk, like if you're going to be repeating anything that you get out of AI, you should probably, make sure that it's actually true. Um, even, you know, even like, facts about the news or this or that or the other, like, this is not perfect. It is getting data that it's been trained on, and the training data may not be correct. The people that are creating the agents, they have bias. You don't have any transparency into how these are created or anything like that. So we always we do a lot of AI solutions, and I would never say, all right, yeah, just send this out. It's like, when we create something for our clients, we proof it, and then we make sure that they proof it. Like, this is not a person. This is a machine. It is that it created this. But I mean, they're very effective. They save a lot of time. Like,
Yeah.
we do production request responses. We have a tool that does this for our clients, and it writes as the attorneys write, and it has the same format and looks exactly like that. So we'll create a production request response for the attorneys to start with. So it just saves them a lot of time just to even create that. Saves them like, days, provides like sample arguments, that can, cool stuff like that. But, I would never say just send that out. Like you get, it'll take them an hour instead of 2 days to do something. I think that's great,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Like I have an agent that it's still not perfected. I'm still kicking around on N8N and using Copilot and trying to figure out the right path. But like I have started, this is a great example of something you can use an agent for today that's low risk. And if it fails, it's not a big deal. But I get emails from like think tanks. Like, I subscribe to
Okay.
Jeffrey Brandt's Pinhawk newsletter. It's great. Artificial lawyer Bob Ambrogi, and I have them routed all to a folder. And
Okay.
I have an agent that goes through and finds out the stuff that's compelling
Hmm.
for thought leadership activities. Like gives
Yeah.
me a bulleted list of, hey, these are the things that happened yesterday in legal tech or AI. That's
That's really cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
and super easy, and it's low risk. I use I have not orchestrated an agent to do this yet. It's still manual, but it's gonna be an agent. When I do a planning call for an agenda,
Yeah.
I record it, I download the transcript, I load it into a custom Claude project,
Nice.
and it
Yep.
outputs. I've trained it in its training materials. I have several handwritten agendas back when I used to have to do it myself. Eventually, I'll wire up a Zapier integration or with N8N, go through and have it just as soon as I end the call, I'll have a naming convention in the meeting planner in my Outlook calendar that it will know to go grab it, run it through the project, and then send me the result. Those are all really productive, and they're real time savers. Like
Oh yeah.
I'm getting real time savings from it. But would I have it go through and pay my bills? No.
Nope. No, of course not. No. 100%. 100%. It's a huge time saver. People should be, I mean, just focusing on the legal. They should be using it for more than just thinking about, oh, I can do auto review for this. No, there's so many things that can be done. We integrated into all of our processes, and we understand how to do that in a secure and privacy first kind of manner. But like I want to go out and like teach corporations this stuff. Like I'm watching them buy these products for like six-figure subs, on an annual basis, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, it's just hire a dude to create these. Right? Like you could create these internally, that are probably more effective and more customized than and more secure than you are currently, paying these six-figure subs. And what are they doing? They're using these like products that are coming out. Oh, don't worry, we're going to use we'll use your API. Oh, great. So you pay for the AI, right? And we're going to use your environment in Azure. Awesome. You're paying for the infrastructure. And so when you get these six-figure, I've been in the legal tech industry a long time. Like six-figure subscriptions is normal for a large corporation. And these software companies, they're continuing to do so, but providing less and less value, right? Oh, you're providing the code. Well, the code, the news today on NPR was, that people with a computer science degree, used to be able to go to school and come out and get a six-figure salary. And now they're one of the most, unemployed, newly graduated comp sci students are the most unemployed sector of our economy. I have a computer science degree. I got it so I could get a job back in the day. I was into social science. I switched from international development to this. And to think about that, I mean, that's a huge shift. So I think software companies you're also going to see a shift. So these AIs like affecting us in so many different ways that I don't think we can predict, but it will change everything,
Yeah. And there's like, I hear a lot of banter too along those lines. Like, Satya Nadella, who's the CEO of Microsoft, talked about kind of the death of SaaS. And I'll tell you right now, SaaS isn't touching our business anytime soon. I'm sure there are scenarios like maybe a CRM where you can vibe code, a basic contact database and the ability to have a tickler and, okay, yeah, maybe. But like what we do, like all the integrations and all the management that comes associated with, like when the API changes, like we have to go change
Mhm.
our code, like for AI to go do that. And then the deployment, like we deploy in the client's tenant, like there's all these
Mhm.
environmental variables. Like if they
Mhm.
have, it was really interesting. We had a client we just migrated off of HiQ, which is kind of the incumbent in the extranet space.
Right, right, right.
And they had two customers where we couldn't send invitations to the law firm had two customers where we initiated the invitation, the external sharing invitation. We kind of bypassed the GUI. We do it through the API, and we had two of their customers out of thousands. I think there were like 4,000
Mhm.
where it wouldn't work, and we're like, "What the hell is going on here?" But it worked in HiQ, so we had to pick apart. There's two little check boxes, and both of these companies had headquarters in China, and way buried deep in the bowels of the Azure admin center, there's a couple of checkboxes that where there's settings that enable or disable your ability to share with. Um, I think they use some separate network in China for M365 customers. I don't.
Right, yeah, no, yep,
It's above
definitely.
my pay grade, but anyway, lots of little nuances like that. Like, yeah, you're never gonna create an AI agent to go here, just go deploy this. I say never. Maybe never's not anytime soon. Are you going to have a button where you just go deploy something as complex as what we have?
Well,
Um,
let's talk about that a little bit. Like, can they write the code to do it? If they're given the proper instructions. If you give the AI the proper instructions on writing that code, then yes. But the subject matter experts that understand all AI is doing is it's learning from what's out there. So if you're doing something truly innovative, it does not know how to do that. And if there's no documentation or examples of how to do that, you're not going to have that. It'll just, like, even coding, it hallucinates quite. It kind of like, I love that it's coding. It's great. It saves some time, but you cannot trust that code. Like, people think you can. Oh, AI can just, no, like, you need these subject matter experts that understand the true workflow and process and that make sure that things are not overlooked and et cetera, et cetera. Like what you're talking about. Some tasks by, more kind of like rote tasks and testing and basic coding will be able to be taken over by, like, the QA process, I think, is really going to benefit from AI, but not the innovation, the creativity, the true, like, the in-depth understanding of subject matter. That's not, like, AI doesn't understand that. And I have a little example of that. If we have a minute,
yeah, sure.
my business partner uh, we've been working. His Greg Estes, he's the CEO of Blue Star. Like, we've been working on these, like, technology projects for forever, and he's like a big ideas guy, but he can't code. It's not, he can't code to save his life. So it'd always be like, okay, Sarah, I want you guys to build this. Let's try that. Da, da, da. And now he can build his own apps with, like, with AI. Like, there's a platform called Replit,
Mhm.
which is you basically, say, I want to build this app, it does this. And to be honest, like, I hate it so much because I'm like, I can't believe that works. Like he built a Salesforce CRM, you know? And I'm like, okay, well, and it's great, but could you update it? Do you understand how the code works? Is it
Right.
doing everything you wanted to? Where's the data stored? Da, 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 da. People that don't have that in-depth knowledge, you know, they can't, they don't know. The small things that aren't working, they try to, like, with a text prompt, update it, and the whole product gets, stops working. So, I think we're getting there to a point where people are going to be able to create more interesting things without having that product knowledge. But you still need, you know what I mean? Like, I do believe that if people want to differentiate themselves, it's like you still have to have that technological background or understanding in order to create a product that really does work and is marketable. you know?
Yeah, I'm a software guy too. I came up the ranks as a software engineer, and
Yeah, okay, good.
the illities, scalability, maintainability, reliability,
Yeah,
interoperability, usability, testability, portability, none of that exists today with
no.
when you're vibe coding. It's great for prototyping and proofs of concept,
Yeah,
but it's not, this is not production ready code. And where
no.
we have to get to from where we are is it's a big jump. Will we get there one day? I'm sure eventually we will. But all the illities today, if you crack open the code, I will say this. One thing I have found uh, AI really useful for is writing SQL. So that's the one area that I've kind of kept up to date because it doesn't change, right? SQL's almost the same today as it was 20 years ago. You know, everything else has changed. If you're building a web app now versus 20 years ago, it was, you know, web forms. Let's see, what are that? 2005. Yeah. Web forms and post back. And now it's all front end JavaScript focused
Mm.
and model view controller. And so,
Oh,
yeah.
you are a true nerd, Ted.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I used to be. I'm like a recovering nerd now.
Yeah,
I
same.
I don't the only thing really technical that I do is write SQL, and it's quite good at that. But I have seen, you know, I have seen the code from these from like Replit and Cursor, and they're utilities. They're little productivity boosters. But if you're going to build an app for anything other than a proof of concept, it right now it's just it's not there.
I find it very difficult, like, my partner would be like, "Yeah, it just has this is just not working. Could you fix it?" And so I go in the code and I'm like, "I have no idea how this code's working." And it's super it lays it out in a very complex manner, like in a non-human manner, which maybe is the most efficient and effective, but if a human wants to come in there and actually kind of dive in, it's almost impossible. Um,
Totally.
yeah, so I hate it, and but I think it'll get there. I think it'll get there pretty quickly, unfortunately, for people like us. But we'll see, I guess.
Yeah,
No one's going to replace that subject matter expertise.
it's so true. Yeah, and you know, so and you brought up a good point about the inability of, and this is an architectural limitation. Like this one's not solvable with the current architecture of LLMs. I That's pretty much the consensus, and that's around the ability to come up with novel ideas.
Right? Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Mhm.
it's like it can, but you know what it can do? It can reassemble pieces of information into novel concepts. But if those component parts aren't don't exist in its vector space, it can't like create a new mathematical proof. Not possible. Can't do it. If it hasn't seen it, it can't do it, right? Because that usually requires a lot of like new abstract thinking. Um, all the all the easy theorems have been proven. But
Mhm.
yeah, eventually, I don't think the current LLM architecture is the end state. I think this is a
No, 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 no,
stepping
no, no.
stone to whatever's next.
It's like thinking that dial-up was the end, the was
Yeah,
be the end state of the internet, right? We're in a completely new um, generation of technology. It's going to be real interesting, and to think what I was just talking about this with my partner, and we've seen so many things in our lifetimes at our age. We didn't have cell phones, and we didn't have internet, we didn't have any of this technology, and to kind of be where we are today with this kind of new AI wave coming through, it's pretty amazing where how much has changed. And people talk a lot. I have daughters that are like 13 and 14, and they're like, "Oh, AI is taking away jobs, and that's bad." And I'm like, "Yeah, but people say that about like moving to kind of more sustainable energy. Like, oh, it's taking away jobs." It's like, yeah, but don't. This is called evolution. This is how we evolve. I said, out of anybody, I have a computer science degree. Like, I should be upset about it, but no, any like you are not entitled to have the same job for your entire life, and nor why should you want it? Like you should be constantly, changing, learning, and kind of adapting to kind of the what's new and upcoming, and that's what will make you stay relevant. Um, so I think AI is great. I totally embrace it. People
100%.
people should.
Yeah, and it's just like capitalism rewards the efficient use of capital.
Okay.
Um, in a capitalistic society, skill sets have to change to align with those movements, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Right.
think about spreadsheets. So spreadsheets didn't exist in 1970.
Right.
They really hit their stride in the 80s, and there were 850,000 CPAs in, I think this was the US. I looked this number up one time for another podcast, and there are more than double that number now. It didn't
Mm.
it didn't kill the accounting profession. It changed it, right? You don't have to pay your accountants to build a pro forma or project your revenue. You can do it with Excel, but they still have plenty to do, more than ever.
Oh yeah. They're just doing it faster, better, they more insight. And there's going to be jobs created that we can't even fathom. Right now they're coming out with these browsers that are all AI powered, right? So you think about that, it's like, well, if you have like any kind of platform, like even if Microsoft doesn't have this AI embedded within, if you have a browser and you can query the data that you're looking at, Q&A, summarize, those stuff. Like I heard an example this morning where, and I think it was Claude, or I'm sorry, I can't remember what model it was, but they kind of were using a browser, and you could say, okay, you're on LinkedIn, find me all the employees that used to work at, XYZ company, but no longer do. And you'd have to kind of go through and search it, or get one of those tools, like Zoom info. It gives you all the people's information, but now it's literally built into your browser. And that's the future, right? It's like, it's too easy. You don't have to set things up. It's just like, you're getting more insight into data, and we're going to see some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, as you were talking there, I was just looking at I was using Comet, which is
Hey,
Perplexity's.
comment. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mm.
Comet, and I don't have a paid plan with Perplexity. I already pay for four. I pay for Grok, Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT. It's like, man, I'm not paying for Perplexity too. It's too much. I like Perplexity. I think it's great, but I just fired it up for the first time this morning, and it told me I had to have a pro subscription. So I'm gonna.
Well, the most recent episode of Hard Fork, it's a podcast. They were given a $200 look into comment, and that's actually what they use. And I thought, wow, that's pretty eye opening about where we're moving towards. And so I think that's pretty cool. I guess we'll see what happens, and like we talked about, we'll just have to adapt, right?
Yeah.
Um,
You,
yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. We're almost out of time, but I wanted to say one quick thing. So I
Sure.
heard some really interesting analysis as to
Mm,
why, ChatGPT is building a browser too. I was
yeah.
like, why are these AI companies building browsers? And in addition to just wanting to be your kind of operating system, they need data.
Yeah.
So they're out of data. They've
Mm,
they've sucked it all in from the
yep.
internet, and
Mhm.
your browsing data gives them more training material, which I don't know why it never occurred to me. It made perfect sense when I heard it, but that's why there's such a race to like get the browser out. Perplexity has impressed me with. I keep thinking they're gonna die, like ChatGPT is gonna kill them, and they're pretty resilient.
They put an offer in for Chrome,
I
Perplexity
know.
did,
I heard that.
which, Google, which I think is probably one of the best, AI creators out there, and we use it a lot. I don't necessarily think Gemini is,
Huh.
because its user kind of interface and features may not be as great as ChatGPT or others. but when using it from an API perspective, it's awesome and cost effective and all this good stuff. I mean, why are they so good? Well, where do they get their data? Well, they have Chrome, right? They also have YouTube, which they just took all the data, just took it, no permission to do so. They have everything, like all the input, all the interactions you make with anything that is a Google product. That is why they're so good. And so, you want to see Perplexity buying Chrome, same reason.
Totally.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. People need to be the whole other conversation is like, start thinking about, well, they need to be thinking about already, like, kind of protecting themselves and their data, because there are no boundaries anymore. We're in a race for the, for the moon, a moon race for AI, these AI companies, and they just don't give a crap.
No.
They'd rather be litigated against because it's worth it. It's worth it.
Even the ones who claim that they do, like Anthropic, I mean, they're, and I think they're the best of the bunch. But they're still using pirated books, and they just lost a major lawsuit. I think it's under appeal. But we
just did. Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, I know I've kept you longer than I agreed to, so I apologize for that. But before we wrap up, like, how do people find out more about you or your company? Do a little self-promotion real quick.
Yeah, Sarah Thompson. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm also, our company is bluestarcs.com. Find out more about what we do for lit support, or you can go to Seamly, like SIEM, like a seam, LOI.com to find out about our Microsoft Investigations platform.
Good stuff. Well, I appreciate you spending a few minutes with me this morning, and I'm sure we'll bump into each other sometime soon.
Would love to.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Legal Innovation Spotlight. If you found value in this chat, hit the subscribe button to be notified when we release new episodes. We'd also really appreciate it if you could take a moment to rate us and leave us a review wherever you're listening right now. Your feedback helps us provide you with top-notch content.